What is up, everybody? We are back. We are back for another podcast.
Let's do it.
Coming at you once again every Tuesday. But let's jump in. I got, of course, a question. Like every week, we always get a question.
Yeah.
If you're listening,
yeah.
If you're listening, if you're watching, leave a comment. If that's a thing, I don't know. I don't
know if anybody has ever commented in the history
never.
of ever.
So be the first.
On our podcast.
You're
on our podcast,
you're guaranteed to get seen if you comment on our
I'm not
podcast.
quick to comment either.
No, neither am I. I never
neither.
comment.
Either. But that's okay.
My social
Spotify
anxiety
or
gets the best of me.
YouTube.
You're like, what if people see my comment?
Yeah.
I like when I'm scrolling on Insta, though, and I see other people's comments that I follow because, it like puts them up at the top.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, they said that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Deep.
Yep. They said that.
They said that.
Black it.
Oh, okay.
Put
it on a pillow.
Yep. But on a slow day. So we're
Okay.
thinking nice summer, slow, relaxing, beautiful day. What is like your go-to thing?
Chores.
I wasn't ready for that.
You did not just say that, did you?
Yeah, I'm
That's
serious.
the most Brennan thing I've
I'm
ever
talking
heard.
Yeah.
about it on Sunday. So the message before this, the one on the Great Commission. I love chores. I like doing tasks like that. Like dust. Yup.
Do you want to clean
Vacuum?
my house?
Hit me with it. Right? Dishes I can go without sometimes.
The dishes are the worst.
But mowing the lawn every day. Like if my lawn needed mowed every 3 days, sign me up.
Really?
Love it.
I'm going to get Brendan a pair of white Air Monarchs to be the ultimate dad
I just
with the
Some
mowing
New
shoes.
Balance with the
there's something
Velcro.
about like mindless cleaning. You put some music on, you got an audiobook, a nice podcast, you're catching a vibe, you're doing stuff that's productive. Like it's awesome.
All right.
Every Friday, 2 to 3 hours at least.
Nope.
There's some things like I don't want to clean the shower. That sucks.
There's like routine things that like you like to do.
Yeah. Like some of the big ones that it's like, oh, my back hurts after, pass.
Need to get one of those fancy
I've seen
electric scrubby brushes that's really long.
I buy a lot of gadgets on Amazon that are like that. I just bought some cable hiders,
If only Brennan was
a
like
damp duster.
10, 20 years older, he'd be all over the ads seen on TV. He
I
would
might
watch
have been.
TV shows just for the ads.
I've got a scrub daddy. Why not?
Dylan, what's yours? We got to get away from this.
Mine is just hammocking by far. I have missed it. I need to go hammock. Like, give me a good book. Give me a hammock. I'm done. I'll probably fall asleep while I read.
Well,
but
that's just part of the experience. Yeah.
I should have gone first because I was going to say the exact same thing. Hammock and a book.
Slacklining?
No. I'm terrible at slacklining.
You tried it?
I can barely stand on the ground.
I've never tried it.
No, I have zero balance. My ankles are
okay.
weak.
I broke my left ankle in high school. I talked about it in a message, I think, didn't I? Yeah. And never been the same.
I broke my foot, a bone in my foot in middle school.
I
Also,
balance
never the same.
Scarbo now.
Roll my ankle every other week. Doing
I
nothing.
don't do that.
never broken a bone.
That's impressive.
I've only cracked a rib
Not
because a kid fell on me during a hockey game.
well, isn't that a bone? So you broke a bone.
A crack? No, not
What
full
is-
break.
Caught him in
Not
a
full
lie.
break.
Liar.
Just a crack.
What is
Okay.
it? What's the difference?
It's not like a
Okay.
What
Full-
is a crack then?
just a little slice.
Oh,
Same thing.
like a.
He's trying to get us lost.
It's not fully break.
Yeah.
He's trying to
Just
get
like
us
a-
lost.
kinda
in
like a
his
glow
logic,
stick.
But
Yeah,
we're
I
not
got
falling for
popped
that.
like a glow stick.
We rebuke it.
A kid fell on me. I got popped like a glow stick. That's the truth.
So summer's coming.
We're way off.
Yep. Yeah. So summer's coming. We're dreaming. We don't really know where we're at in headspace, but
I'm good.
the summer is coming. Seasons are changing. So that means schedules change as well.
Yeah.
And so if you're a college student, most likely the summer looks completely different for you.
Yeah.
If you're a young adult, maybe it looks a little bit the same. Maybe there's just a little bit of change. But in essence, wherever you're at, it's going to look different.
Yeah.
And so we just want to grab a seat, talk about what does that look like? How do we make the most of our summer?
Yeah.
As these schedules change, how do we continue to grow? How do we continue just to keep running the race of faith?
Yeah. I think it's in some ways something I really wasn't aware of, and maybe most college students aren't, that how the work life of like a young adult or like just workplaces changes a lot in the summer. Like I have some construction people on the Oasis leadership team who their summers are nuts.
Yeah.
Right? They're putting in 60, 70-hour weeks because this is the construction season. But that looks very different than when it's winter, right? For a construction person, or vice versa. Like I know some people who are tax people, right? The spring for tax people is absurd.
Wow.
They're working insane hours. But when the summer comes around, that's when most people are taking their vacations. Like they're leaving early on Fridays. They might work a couple less hours, right? Here at the church, like a lot of people would say, well, like what's different between December and July at the church? And activity-wise, not a ton, but
Easter.
even just December and July?
Yeah,
Easter, what?
Easter is in between December and July.
Oh, yeah. But between those 2 months, like you got Christmas, but like really like practice-wise, like there's not a ton that changes. But even here, like we've got staff members who take long extended holidays. We've got a pastor who's on sabbatical. Like Jana's away at camp. Like there's all these things that kind of change the rhythm and routine of the summer. And I find you see that at a lot of workplaces. You maybe don't expect it.
Yeah.
So just because you don't have a traditional summer break doesn't mean your spring rhythm will continue to be your summer rhythm.
And especially if you live here in Brookings, things definitely change. I mean, this
The whole city's different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you've never been here for summer in Brookings, like the second
vibe.
college students leave, the vibe of the town is just different.
Yeah.
And for 2 months, I'm game for it.
Yeah.
Pace of life is slower, hustle bustle, there's less people, like it's
Less
just
traffic.
less traffic, like everybody seems to go slower, like it's a little bit more peace filled. By August, I'm like, bring them back.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I'm ready.
We're bored.
But
Bring them out. Bring them out.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it about this routine and this rhythm change that becomes so good and bad about summer?
I mean, just in the change, we can get so stuck in the rhythm and routine that, we come to Oasis every night. We listen to the podcast. We kind of get in that rhythm of like school or work, and then small group, Oasis on the weekends, stuff like that. And we get into that rhythm. And so once that changes and we leave, maybe go home for the summer, Oasis doesn't really happen that much in the summer. There isn't as much to do, that we can kind of throw the faith out the door with it. That we just take everything out, and so we only focus on whatever is at hand during the summer. When in fact, what is important is taking the season of the summer to refine and rebuild what was built up over the past few years, or over the past season, or what we would say, I guess, for school year for us.
Yeah.
But taking all of the go that is our school year coming from Oasis, there's a ton of content that we cover.
Yeah.
Like you go from August to the end of April, our last Oasis, we covered a lot. And so that means there's a lot of intake. That doesn't count in your small groups. If you're involved in ministry team, we have our ministry team nights that we're delivering content. Like there's tons of places where you're receiving. And so in the summer, you don't get to receive. And so,
much,
you don't get to receive as much. So there's time for refinement and just kind of processing through that. But it's still an opportunity to kind of revisit some things, change some things up. One of my favorite things about the summer is just getting to revisit rhythms, switch up my schedule. Like I don't have to worry about it as much. So I get to be a little bit more picky about when I want to do things, stuff like that. So.
Yeah. What would you say are maybe hard, you're hitting at some of them, but as people step into the summer, what are things that we would say, beware of this temptation or this struggle when it comes to continuing to walk with Jesus?
I think one is maybe on the flip side, like you've mentioned, not establishing new rhythms. Maybe it's trying too hard or putting higher expectations on yourself in establishing new rhythms. And so it can be easy to fall into the trap of wanting to do the right thing, having the right intention, of wanting to continue in faith, to grow in relationship with God, and to maybe set goals for yourself, but then not have healthy expectations in that. And so sometimes when our rhythm shifts, instead of having good perspective, we can put higher expectations on ourselves that can lead to disappointment if we don't meet those expectations. So what does it look like to find a new rhythm, to set healthy expectations, to prioritize your faith and practices? And we'll talk more about that. But keeping in mind that God maybe wants to move in a different way than you expect, or he wants to connect with you in a way that maybe you weren't expecting. And so just being willing and open to allowing the Spirit to move and to work in those summer months, maybe differently than he has.
How do you feel like you set an expectation when God can kind of do what he wants, right?
That's a great question.
How do you navigate, okay, I want to expect blank, but what if God's looking for this? How do I reconcile those two things and step into summer with a prepared sense of that?
I think for me personally, sometimes where I struggle with unmet expectations is when I put expectations on myself. So I'm going to read X amount, or I'm going to spend X amount of time with God. And it's about me. It's about what I put in, instead of being like, okay, God, I'm coming to you and I'm going to give you my best. Yeah. And so if I don't meet that expectation, but God has still met me, then that's where I have to like reevaluate, because the unmet expectation was with myself, not with God and how he showed up or how he revealed himself. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I think it does in some ways. And I would add even, or change, or put in a different caveat, I don't know, where it's like, I think we can make our expectations, right? We can plan for it to be the best summer ever, and like work is going to be great, and I'm going to have this opportunity, and I'm going to get to hang out with these friends and like go to this lake, and we can have some of those expectations, but then blanketing all that with the expectation that it's subject to change.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like at the end of every one of your expectations, you should put a little asterisk, and then down at the bottom corner, just be like, God might ruin this plan, right? Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's learning to hold all things loosely.
Yeah.
Like, we can make plans, but it's learning to hold them loosely. That you may have the next 5, 10, 20 years of your life planned out.
Yeah.
But like, God may say tomorrow, all that. Nope. That's not what it's going to look like. And so it's learning like, okay, yes, I can step into this. I can step into summer thinking it's going to be the best summer ever. But God, being in his infinite and outside of time, like he knows what is to come. And so like, you could go walk into summer saying it's going to be the best one yet, but yet God knows what that holds. Yeah. And it could be the worst summer ever. But that's okay, because it's still you walking alongside God through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the next thing this summer kind of lends itself, if we can turn the page to maybe some good stuff, right? We can come back to the bad if there's other things we need to cover there. But in the good, right, when we are forced to change routines, maybe you don't have class or you don't have work in the same way, or like when you're forced to change routines, it does give you a period of evaluation, or at least it should, right? To step back and say, what do I want this new season to entail? And there's a chance for you to add things in that you've been missing. Yeah. I keep having this conversation with people that one of the most important things you can do as a Jesus follower is to personally spend time with God, right? The Sunday night or the Sunday morning gathering is not sufficient for your soul. The Tuesday night small group, even if you add that in, probably not sufficient for your soul. You need a consistent time where you sit down with God, you read his word, you pray, you maybe do some silence, you do some journaling, some reflecting. Like, you need this time, and it can look a lot of different ways, and it can be 10 minutes, it could be 2 hours. We just, as people, we need that discipline in our lives. And so if you don't have that, and you're stepping into a new summer with a new job or new opportunities or slower schedule, whatever it is, what does it look like to add that in? And to start to establish that rhythm in your life in May, June, July, so then when August comes back and maybe it ramps back up for a lot of people, you've established and have this bank of practice where you've trained yourself into the way of consistently being with Jesus each and every day, so that when the tide comes against you, you can stand strong in who God has created you to be still.
Yeah. And even, for those of you listening that know that you already have a chaotic summer, maybe the lights just went flashing. You're like, oh, heck no, don't tell me to add another thing. Yeah. But this is where you fight for your faith. This is where you're called to stand up and contend for that. To say like, yes, I know that this is the time that I have, the time that I'm given, and I'm going to make the most of it. And so I'm going to fight for, the hour in the morning where I get to spend time with Jesus, or, I'm going to fight for that time during my lunch break to maybe step aside and maybe not, go grab lunch with my friends all the time, but like take a step back and spend that time with the Father alone. Yeah. Like, it's fighting for those every single minutes that you can get, even if it's nuts, to continue to come back, recenter yourself, refocus on what is truly important. Yeah. And let God lead through that. Like, spending time in the wilderness. I mean, we talked about it this morning in our staff development meeting, was that the spending the time in the wilderness. Jesus, before he did anything, spent 40 days in the wilderness. Yeah. And it was out of that then he did everything. And so it's in those moments of quiet, of retreat, of spending with God, that then can empower us to do the things ahead of us so much better.
Yeah, and like, what was I gonna say? I lost it. Oh, time with Jesus is something that's really adaptable to your plans.
Yeah.
Like I think about, we do the things we think matter to us. So if you value physical health, you're gonna make time to work out and diet and do all those different things. And you see people who, over their lunch break, they might go to the gym or right after they get off, or they might wake up at the absurd butt crack of dawn. Like I was just talking to someone who wakes up at 4 a.m.
That's
4 a.m.
ridiculous.
to work out. But they value that, and that's the only time they're going to do it. And so they sacrifice sleep or different things so that they can. But that's like, okay, you get sweaty and messy, and like you got to shower and like change and all those things. Time with Jesus doesn't even involve all of that.
Yeah.
Right? You could literally be driving to your workplace and praying. And that might look like what time with Jesus looks like that day.
Yeah.
It might be sitting in your car or working or sitting at your desk working, and you have headphones in and you're listening to the Bible app read you scripture.
Yeah.
Right? That might look like what your time with Jesus is. It might be finding that podcast and then having a conversation with a coworker or or like a friend. Like, it doesn't take 2 hours all the time to sit aside and like really, like, what does it look like in your maybe craziness where you're kind of freaking out to still carve out time over your lunch break to read God's word instead of scroll on TikTok?
Yeah.
Like stuff like that, where it's super adaptable to spend time with God.
And also, in the chaos, in fighting for your time, let it be a priority to slow down. Like, we weren't meant to work like crazy. I mean, the first day that Adam and Eve spent on this earth was a day of rest. It was the Sabbath, the seventh day that the Lord called holy. Like, we were made to work, but also we need that rest because we are not God. And so fighting for that time to, in the moments that you can, slow down, rest. If that means taking a Sabbath and you have the opportunity to do that, do that. It is the best thing that you could do. But spend that time with Jesus. Let that be a rest for your soul, and so that you can go and do out of that rest. One of the things that I've worked through is not resting from work, but resting or resting well so that my work flows out of my rest. So it's not just, I'm just barely chugging to the finish line, but it's because I rested beforehand, then I can give it my full effort going forward.
Yeah, and I mean, the Jewish calendar reflected that.
Yeah.
Sabbath was their first day of the week. So that their Saturday was when they would typically Sabbath, and then that filled up their tank so that when they walked out the rest of the week, then they were giving from a place of like of substance rather than the other way around, where I think our culture now has our weekend at the end of the week and Monday starts our week. And so we work all week, we get super depleted and exhausted, and we stumble into the weekend and we sit on the couch and relax for Friday, Saturday and Sunday. And then we got to go back into the work week with like maybe some energy to just deplete ourselves again to run the cycle. And what it looks like, and that's not like a huge logistic change, right? Because you can't reorient the days of the week.
Yeah.
Like they're still going to fall in that order. But it's a mental change to really say, okay, I'm resting deeply now so that I can give out of what is a supply that is within me. What does it look like to just like have fun this summer? And how does that help our soul to continue to flourish in that way?
Yeah, I mean, doing things that you enjoy will refresh your soul, will give you rest, even if it's something that's high energy and crazy, especially if you're an extrovert, like that's restful for you, which is weird to say. But the things that you love fill up your soul. Even in those, allow those to be moments where you connect with God. Like God is giving you joy as you read a book, as you do art, as you take a walk. Like allow God into that moment to talk with him, thank him for this joy that he's giving you. Recognize it, let it refill your soul. To build you up, you know, when we're always doing things that are hard or maybe not quite as fun or even just mundane, they can feel draining, but to do something fun can fill you back up.
What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun?
Let's throw something, because I
let's
think,
do.
so this comes from there's a book out there, Rest in War, Ben Stewart, one of my favorite pastors. He's awesome. Love him. And in his book, he highlights, and it's like a page of a 200-page book.
Yes.
Like, it's a very quick blurb, but he talks about this idea of what it looks like to really invest time and energy in the things we love in order to protect ourselves from the things that are bad from us, right? Like, if you are finding fulfillment in family, in friends, in God, you will not seek fulfillment as much in sin, right? If we're experiencing true love and relationship, we're not going to be as tempted to be drawn into lust. Like, when we have something that's valuable, we don't want the cheap substance. So continue to pursue the valuable thing. And there's this diagram that goes with that you can do. And one of the things he challenges us, the people, to do is to fill out this circle of all the things they love to do. And as you sit there to try to fill out this circle, I think oftentimes we're easily tapped early on thinking, man, I don't love that many things, right? My hobby list is much shorter than I thought it was. Like, struggling to find out what we like as people. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but... So this question is kind of loaded, I guess. Maybe not for Dylan. He's a hobby guy.
Yeah.
What do I like to do?
Sure. Yes.
For fun?
I went on a tangent, but I'm coming
You're
back.
coming back, yeah.
You don't get to skirt the question.
Yes. I mean, I love being outside, sitting in a hammock, reading a book. I get really, really re-energized by being with specific people who are energizing. I can also get very, very depleted by the wrong people. Kind of a weird introvert, extrovert in the middle kind of a person. But specific people, whether we're doing something crazy and fun or we're just sitting outside, kind of staring off into space, casually talking. Like,
okay.
Those kind of things. I like roller skating.
Roller skating. Let's go. Jana's new house is on a great little roller skate street.
That's true. I hadn't thought
It's
about
a loop.
that. Yeah.
And without any houses over there, she's
Jana's starting roller derby.
Except I haven't taken my skates outside. I've only used
yeah.
them inside, so I don't know.
We'll ruin them
We'll
with
see.
the rocks. But Dylan, why don't you give us just a couple of your 14,000 hobbies that you love to do?
I'll shoot for two. The first one is hiking. Of course, I love the mountains.
You can hike not in the mountains.
You prefer like mountain hiking, though?
Yes, give me the mountains.
Yeah.
I don't want no
I can take you to
nature
Oakwood
park
right now. We can go.
I don't want no
hike.
nature park trail.
He doesn't like to trail walk.
Yeah.
I
mean,
want
he's privileged.
I want
And so
the 14ers.
Granola
okay,
boy.
go ahead. Hike.
But yeah, I love hiking. I love the mountains. And I always have. I've always been like a climber monkey guy. So like, give me something tall, I'll climb it, whatever. But up until I knew Jesus, hiking was just like hiking. It's just like going on a long, hard walk.
Yeah.
But then like once I really like grew in my faith, hiking became so much more, because as I walk through the mountains, I'm like, dude, I'm walking through creation. Like the God of all creation formed all of this thing that I cannot explain the beauty and splendor of with a word. And he created it like that. And so I get lost in like the majesty and wonder of just the beauty. And also I love feeling tiny when I'm in like looking at huge mountains. It's like, okay, it's not all about me. I'm just this little speck. And so it's really, really humbling walking through. And then, you know, of course, getting to the top and getting to see everything is just an amazing experience. And so hiking has become extremely spiritual for me.
Yeah.
Secondly is filmmaking. I love telling stories. Storytelling is a huge part of my family. And I love creating and crafting beautiful images and capturing those pieces of creation that God has built. And so just capturing that with beautiful images with a camera and then telling a story through those images, is just an amazing part of, I get to co-labor with the creator in creating something with my own hands. And I do it to try and just tell the beauty and splendor of who our God is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I like reading the Bible. And
Shut up.
I like leading Oasis, and so
You're the worst.
summer's really
Well,
draining.
that's it.
No, I'm just kidding. I love all outdoor sport games, and not like not basketball or like I love soccer, and I'm talking like the stupid ones, like spike ball, yes, ramp shot, yeah, Beersby, yeah, well with fake beer, you know, but like, what else? What's the one with the coop with the blocks?
Yep.
Cornhole, Yeah,
bags.
like you name it, I'm in
Yep.
for sure. Let's
Anything
play
that's outside.
let's play all of the stupid outside games that we
There you go.
spend so much money on. And they're just like spike ball net, $100, piece of plastic with some
Yeah,
cameras.
that's
Like
true.
it's dumb,
probably make
but
it.
it's so fun. Like if you got pickleball, let's play right now. Like that, I love that.
What was the
about this
second
summer.
one you said?
Ramp shot.
Yeah, what's that
Look
one?
it up. It's sick.
I don't know if I know
We
that
played during COVID. It was our COVID game, and so we'd go outside and we'd play for like 6 or 7 hours at a time. And
one. You and Al?
no, she doesn't play.
I was going to say, who's we?
I usually
just
play with
anybody?
typically like just like a group of guys.
Okay.
But I'll play with anybody. Like I'll play with anybody. You just have to follow the rules. I'm a
Oh,
rule
okay.
follower.
Well,
So I'm
we
not
all
playing
know
your
that.
makeshift version of spike ball.
And,
we are
and
playing
remember, Brennan's got to explain the rules too.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have to. I like to.
He would prefer to.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you start explaining it bad, I'm gonna correct you. But yeah, all the games outside.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
So just do more fun stuff this summer.
Yes.
I think when it comes to this warm weather and we finally have it, don't let it pass you by, because it's really easy, just like you said, to craft these expectations of it's going to be amazing, and then to kind of stumble through it, and all of a sudden it's late July, it's early August, and we never got to go for the hike, and we never set up the vacation, and we never hung out with our friends, and we spent too much time at work and too much time watching TV and too much time scrolling on our phone, and like, just don't do that this summer. Do things you love, fill up your cup, enjoy with the time that you have.
Yeah.
Like, let life be not so serious for a period of time.
I know, like, even this conversation that when we first talked about this, like, it immediately inspired me so much that this is what I'm going to do this summer.
Yeah.
That is my one expectation for the summer, is to write out all the fun things I did and literally make a bucket list for this summer.
Dude,
and then
I've
go
seen
do
those, like the pictures, like parents
Yeah.
will make them with their kids. And I'm like, I want to do, like, Google summer bucket list, like, project.
Yes.
They'll put like a piece of cardboard and half of it's like, get ice cream. But some of it's like, go to a baseball game. And it's like, yeah,
Do that.
you should make a list of 50 things and try to do all the fun stuff this
Yes.
summer.
And try your best
Maybe
to
I
invite
will.
Jesus into it. Like,
Yeah,
we already have great things. Invite the greatest thing into it.
that's good
Look at
point.
that.
All right. Anything else?
That's
I think so.
All right.
Have fun.
Check you next week.
Bye.
Bye.